if you are at all looking at the direction of your screen right now, you can clearly see that I'm looking at the UFC NOCHE main card in front of me. And I wanted to make this video just to explain why UFC Paris is going to succeed where UFC NOCHE completely and utterly failed. So first of all, I'm going to start off by saying the main event was risky from the beginning. You have Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley, and you know any fight with Merab in it has a 50-50 chance of just being a crotch fest. This is not hate for Merab Dvalishvili. I actually like the guy more than I like Sean O'Malley. It's just more to explain that the average fan is not going to appreciate the grappling that he's gonna, the domination, the grappling, the tango that he's gonna have with Sean O'Malley. The only way you thought this was gonna be exciting is if you thought Sean O'Malley would win, which I kind of understand. That the UFC probably made this entire event with Sean O'Malley in the main event, thinking, oh, once Sean O'Malley gets this KO, he's gonna make all of the ESPN highlights and whatnot. It makes sense because Sean O'Malley was on ESPN with Stephen A. Smith talking some nonsense with his cards in the background. But you just knew it's going to be a 50-50 gamble, so why would you risk it? Below that, you have the co-main event, which is a women's fight, but it's a good women's fight. You have Alexa Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko. Now, again, the first two fights were good, don't get me wrong. But it's just one of those fights, you know there is a risk of it being boring, because it's a women's fight. There's always going to be a 50-50 chance that it's just going to end up being either a pitter-patter shots from range, no damage whatsoever, and then or just like a massive grappling wrestling fest, crotch fest. Brian Ortega, Diego Lopez obviously delivered, but then you have a few fighters on the main card that I'm pretty sure the general public has no clue who they are. Even some of the hardcore fans like struggling to remember their last fights, you know what I mean? You have Daniel Zellhuber versus Esteban Ribovic on the main card. This is a great fight, don't get me wrong, it ended up being a great fight. But the fact we didn't get a finish, along with the fact that every single fight on the main card ended up going to decision, as we get further and further away from this moment in time into the future, as we travel every single day, people are just going to remember this card as the card with no finishes on the main card. No one's going to remember Daniel Zellhuber or Esteban Ribovic as these amazing, amazing fighters who went to war for our entertainment. You know what I mean? Like, unless one of them becomes a huge star, this fight is just going to get forgotten to time. Ronaldo Rodriguez and Otto Osborne have no place on the main card of any pay-per-view. The only reason this fight made the card is because Ronaldo Rodriguez is Mexican, and that's the other problem with this card. For some weird reason, the fact that this event was happening in Las Vegas, I don't understand why they had to make them all Mexican. I understand this was a love letter to Mexico, but even the Mexicans are having a hard time watching Emmanuel Torres. Like, keep attention on Manuel Torres, you know what I mean? Not to say he's a bad fighter, he's actually quite a fun fighter. But the fact that he got completely wrecked in the first round, along with Yasmin coming into the fight, was almost a 500 favorite. She got destroyed in the first round and submitted. For some reason, the only finishes on this card were against like Mexican fighters. Well, obviously they were against Mexican fighters, but like for some reason it was never. It's like the Mexicans were always the bridesmaids and never the bride. You know what I mean? The most highlight-worthy thing that happened on this card was probably the KO from Ignacio Bahamundes, the knockout that he landed, because it was just a brutal knockout, and probably the Ketlin Souza submission, where she knocked down Yasmin in the first round and submitted her immediately. Further down, we only have Raul Rosas Jr. carrying the Mexican flag for his team, it feels like, and even that was a pretty boring fight. Up and down the card, Edgar Scherer is losing, representing Mexico, as the favorite as well, by the way. He was a favorite taking on Josh Van, who I think took the fight on short notice, and still getting destroyed. Yasmin, one of the second biggest favorite on the entire card, destroyed. Manuel Torres, destroyed. Irene Aldana's face had one of the most nastiest cuts you will ever see in your entire life. It was one of the most brutal, one of the most damaging things in women's MMA history, it feels like, as well. Again, destroyed. Ronaldo Rodriguez got the win, but that was a bullshit robbery in my opinion. I mean, the last round, he was literally punching the canvas, the ground. He wasn't even punching Otto Osborne, and for some reason, I think that was enough for him to take the round. Completely nonsense. I actually lost money on that fight, because right after the prelims ended, I made a bet with my friend, and I was like, I bet you Not a single Mexican from this point on will win a single fight. And then the next fight, Ronaldo wins in a complete bullshit robbery, and then no one else wins afterwards. So I lost money because of that. Daniel Zellhuber, favorite. Didn't get destroyed, but I mean, it says split hair, but realistically it was a unanimous decision. I don't understand how one of the judges gave Daniel Zellhuber 2 of the rounds. I thought it was clearly Esteban Ribovic taking the first 2 at least. Ortega Lopez, great fight. And then the rest of the fights speak for themselves, you know. And that was UFC Noche. It was one of the most hyped cards of the year. The spectacle is amazing. The card, I feel, will be forgotten to time. I don't think the historical significance of it was big enough for it to stick in our memory like 217 did with GSP. Like 3 title changes in the top 3 fights of the card and all that. We got 2 title changes, but they're just not people that the fans like. Like, I get Valentina probably has a pretty big fan base for a WMMA fighter. And Merab is a cool dude from Georgia. You know, the Georgian fans like him. But realistically, you wanted to promote Alexa Grasso as the Mexican champion, you know, going forward. Keep the Mexican... Like, if you bought a pay-per-view and you're like, okay, so she's our champion. She's the Mexican champion. And then she got completely made to look like a baby in this fight. Like, a complete child against a professional fighter, it felt like. Not because like of the damage or anything like that, just because the technique, the skill off her back, she didn't even try to get up. And then in the main event, Sean O'Malley's their big star they're promoting. They want him to be a big star. And Merab, they want him to lose. Let's be honest here. The only reason he had to go through 10 fights to get to the title is because they were hoping along the line he slips on a banana peel. I mean, Aldo, realistically, title shot after that, doesn't get it. Peter Yan, domination, title shot after that, doesn't get it. Makes sense, Aljo was a champ, but then again, he didn't have to fight Henry Cejudo. He should have got the fight against Sean O'Malley instead of Chito Vera. It's quite clear they didn't want Merab to win, and they didn't seem pretty happy about it either. So, and now, I'm gonna now show you the card for UFC Paris and just show you the massive, massive dominance that it has over this UFC Noche card. UFC Paris immediately was starting off with a banging main event. The favorite is Benoit Saint Denis, and for good reason. We know this fight is going to end in finish no matter what. You might be thinking, oh, why is this the main event instead of Imavov versus Allen? Allen and Imavov are actually higher ranked in their division. It's obvious because UFC knows while Imavov has a good chance of winning, he could get upsetted by Brendan Allen. And the fact this fight probably won't end in a finish. It'll probably either be 29-28 either way. On the other hand, Moicano, Benoit Saint Denis, like, Benoit's a big star in France, I feel like. Like, his story's cool, his backstory's cool, he's very marketable. He's just like that big Russian dude that you don't want to see fight your favorite fighter because he could beat them. Like he did with Dustin Poirier. He lost that fight, but everyone was scared. Every Dustin Poirier fan was biting their nails in that fight. He's promotable, and Moicano's promotable. It's just great. Which begs the question, why is this card being treated like the dirty little secret for the UFC? These fighters could realistically probably not like a press conference, but probably like do a sit down with Bisping in the middle, asking questions there and there. You know what I mean? I don't know why they're not promoting this card more. This is literally one of the best fight nights of the year, or maybe even the best. I'm going to make a prediction right now. When this card ends, it'll be the best fight night of the year. I don't think it'll be better than UFC 299 or 300, but it could be a contender for one of the best fight cards of the year. In terms of just how it all plays out, another smart thing they did was they didn't just fucking load it with French fighters that aren't good or anything. We have Belgium, Scotland, Chris Duncan, Balagioki, Nora, I'm just going to say Nora, and Jesus, Jacqueline from Portugal against France. Again, okay, there's a French fighter there. Daniel Perez and Victor Altamirano. I wish I looked over the names before I opened this video up, I suppose. Anyway, I bet you anything. And he's the underdog. I bet you anything Daniel Perez destroys Victor. Just because he's Mexican, I think the trend will continue. I think this will just be another reason why France is superior to Mexico, I suppose. Russia, Argentina, again, like, they're not just putting French fighters on the card that have no place in the UFC. Taylor Lapilus, okay, he's a favorite. He'll probably win against Vince Morales. If he doesn't, who cares? It's in the prelims. Ludovic Klein, Slovakia. Roosevelt Roberts, United States. Omar Sy is a good prospect. This is going to be his second fight in the UFC. He's a good wrestler, decent on the feet as well. Da Woon Young, 3-fight slide. He's probably going to get cut. So they batch him up with Omar Sy, who will probably look great in this fight. It might not be a finish. It might be. We don't know. Ion Kudalaba, main eventing the prelims, makes complete sense. He's fighting Ivan Urslan. I'm not too familiar with his game, I suppose you could say. But realistically, just close your eyes, flip a coin, open your eyes, see where the coin landed, pick that person to win. Because this fight's going to be a finish on either direction. And that's going to lead us right into the main card. All French fighters from here on out make sense, the main card. But there are also fights that make sense being on the main card. This isn't even a pay-per-view, but Faraz Ziam versus Matt Favola is already like better than the first two fights of UFC NOCHE. You know what I mean? Matt Favola always has exciting fights, always has fun fights. Faraz always has boring fights. Mix them together, we could get something, you know what I mean? And if by any chance any of these fighters on the main card win, you can easily put it on ESPN because the crowd is just going to be so electric. Like, you guys remember when Darren Till came out for that walk? Sweet Caroline. Whoa, oh, that one. The crowd made that one of the most iconic walkouts of all time. The fight after it against Wonderboy was complete shit. Darren Till could have lost that fight. No one remembers that. Just because of that highlight, Darren Till became a big star. If he won his next fight against Tyron Woodley, he could have been one of the biggest stars in the UFC. Like, he could have been like a Sean O'Malley level superstar. Morgan Charrier will probably win his fight against Gabriel Miranda. I think he will. He's a pretty big favorite, though, I will say. I mean, I know his record isn't the best, and actually, no, that doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's hope he wins, but if you want to bet against someone, put $10 on Gabriel Miranda and see what happens. Kevin Jusset, a French dude that even the hardcore fans wouldn't be too familiar with, they'd have to think for like a couple of seconds. Oh, what was his last fight? Fighting Brian Battle, who is a recognizable name to the hardcore fans. Like, he had some hype after that Ange Lusa fight. He's got some good finishes against Takashi Soto. I'm picking Brian Battle to win this fight, but either way, again, like, this is going to be a good fight on the main card. Like, you're going to leave this card, like, having memorable fights in your mind. Like, you're going to be like, oh, remember Brian Battle doing that? And you're like, oh yeah, the crowd was going crazy. You know what I mean? And then you have William Gomez versus Joanderson Brito. Brito is coming off that nasty leg kick to Jack Shaw. But William Gomez has a chance to win this fight. I don't know why everyone's just unanimously going with Joanderson Brito. I think go either way. I think Joanderson probably wins because he's just so dangerous with his leg kicks, his submissions, and striking. But again, the French guy's got a chance. Like, the French fighters don't have to win every single fight for this to be a success, keep in mind. It just has to be a fun card where some of the French fighters shine through. And it just can't... There's some layups here, but there's mostly competitive fights, top to bottom. Imavov, Brandon Allen. Again, this fight could have main evented. I'm glad it didn't, because it's a great co-main event. And Brandon Allen is real boring, and this card would have way less hype if he was the main event. But again, Imavov's got a real good shot at winning. If he wins this fight here, we're looking at a title eliminator fight in his next fight. And then, if he gets to a title shot next year, UFC Paris, pay-per-view, main event, Imavov versus whoever the champion is, co-main event, Manon Fiorot versus Valentina, if Valentina wants to wait, who knows. And then obviously the main event, guaranteed fireworks, it's going to be a great fight. Yeah, I'm not sure why this card isn't promoted more, to be honest. They put together an amazing card. The crowd's going to be crazy no matter what. There'll be a lot of finishes. I wish Dana put his focus towards France a bit more. Because I feel like Benoit Denis, Manon Fiorot, Cyril Gane, some other European fighters, you know, they can adopt them for a night. They have big enough names to even have a pay-per-view there, but they're just choosing not to. I'm guessing it's because they don't have a champion. But Manon Fiorot, I'm telling you, like Cyril Gane, like these fighters, you could have a pay-per-view in France and you could probably, like in terms of just quality, it would just blow NOCHE out of the water. Anyway, I'm Team France this weekend. I'm guaranteeing more French fighters win than they don't. Yeah, Team France. I think UFC Paris is every year one of the most underrated cards of the year. It's always one of the best cards of the year. The only problem is I have to wake up at 2 a.m. to watch the prelims. That's fine, I'll do it. Anyway, like, share, and subscribe. Make sure to subscribe because I'm recording this early. Right now on 7 subscribers, but let's say by the time this video's out, I'm on 9 subscribers. Let's get me to 10, alright?